we didn't get cut too short, which was a good thing. We kind of got about exactly what we were looking for as the weather started to roll in. I know you guys were covered and pretty well taken care of, so they weren't as worried about you guys. But I think more than anything today, it's kind of the end of camp. I know we've still got obviously 14 days or so out, and next week we'll still have more than just a one a day and a lot of things that we're doing on Monday and Tuesday. But this kind of signals where we were wanting to be at the end of camp. Have a little scrimmage, have the opportunity for guys to go some live action, and we got all that done today. And it was a good challenge. I'm excited to go watch and see what kind of guys stepped up, and then what kind of guys, when it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit liver, tighten up a little bit. So it was good.
And now with a few weeks, really under his belt in fall camp, what do you like what you've seen from young linebacker Mason Posa, just kind of in terms of some of his growth?
Yeah, I'd like to say he would have been here in the spring. Would have been how much further along he'd be, but believe me, I know why he wasn't here, but he does. In days like this where you go some live action, it's intriguing to see who else shows up. Not that some guys haven't shown up all the last 17, 18 practices, but there's a difference to it when all of a sudden it goes live action. And I thought he did a really good job today. Consistency in any young guy is going to be really the key. And can you trust that guys can be consistent enough to go out there and do what they need to do and a role that which they have. But there's no doubt that the idea of let it fly in 4 to 6 fits right into his mentality.
Luke, you talked about competitive maturity throughout training camp, about how guys push each other and play. How does that kind of shift, or how does that take shape when you get closer to the season and get into the season?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's as tough. I mean, we'll still go against each other as we get into the season, so there's going to be some maturity there, but also that competitive maturity is a day like this. When you have some of these situations, someone's going to in nature win and someone in nature is not going to win. So the competitive maturity to understand, that, hey, we're only making each other better, and you can be happy for whichever way or whichever side you ended up on. And I do think we pushed these guys. We were a physical camp, and if you really look at it, there weren't a whole bunch of fights and some things like that. And and believe me, it wasn't like we weren't trying to push to an edge. I think that with an older crew, I think they did set a tone of what that competitive maturity can look like and our ability to stay on our feet and a lot of the things we've done, because today was really the only day that we've gone live. And so I think we've gotten a lot more out of that. Now it's got to translate into those situations when we go live.
As far as Deani Hill goes, what does he show you maybe later in camp
I don't know that it's just later in camp, to be honest with you. I think at the start of spring ball, I think that it was, maybe at first you didn't see exactly what you wanted to see from him. And as he continued to push through and, you just weren't sure. And then with, the situation with where we are and what, Nye's situation, he was obviously thrust into a little bit of a different competitive role. And I think he shined in that. And I think that's where I've seen a big difference in him from where he was in the spring and where he's been all fall camp. And, maybe that's obviously just maturity, continue to understand what we expect of him. But I also think that, there's a little bit of a different light with all that's going on and has been going on with Nye. And he's really done a great job and stepped up.
Along those lines, what have you seen from Nye, kind of in some unusual circumstances this fall?
I have the utmost respect for Nazir. I don't know how he goes about his daily basis, to be honest with you. He doesn't show that there's anything going on. He just, he's an example to everybody on this team, and it's not just the players, it's the coaches as well, because I can be a roller coaster daily getting a report on some of the things that are going on, but yet he hasn't shown it and continues to go out there, and whatever role we've asked him to do, he's been a scout team guy most of camp. He's filled in when we've needed him to, and Rico's been had a little ankle injury, so he's gotten a lot of reps kind of filling in for Rico playing the field, and he just continues to hone his skills, and who knows what's going to happen.
Coach, it was another strong day for the defensive front. Just what's been your impression of the impact that group can make?
Well, I don't know if I would agree with you quite as much there on the strong day for the defensive front. The ball was rolling downhill pretty consistently. But I think in general, those guys, there's some depth there. Those guys haven't played nearly as much football. I'm intrigued to go see what it really looks like on film today. I think that give the offense, again, it wasn't gamesmanship, but I think the offense did a good job today in any of the third down situations at not allowing the defense to sub. So they had to keep guys on the field. They had to maybe play with a guy that's not as normally out there on third down and not maybe used to going 4, 5, 6, 7 plays in a row. But I thought that was a pretty good thing on the other side of the ball. And then guys had to fill some different roles because they were stuck out there in some of the tempo situations.
As far as your backup quarterbacks, in the last week you talked about wanting to see what they did. Like, what kind of stands out?
I don't know. We keep asking, we keep sitting down every day, and those guys have done a really good job at battling. I don't know that, this will be interesting to go really try to break down and see if anybody has separated themselves. That they got an opportunity a little bit different when Billy was out for a few days to run with the ones, and I think that's a great indication sometimes of how your leadership and how much you can step up in those situations. But I mean, this is going to be a decision he's going to probably go down through next week to figure out where we really feel like is going to give us the best opportunity, and who's going to take those number 2 snaps, and whoever's that third guy is going to have to be really mature about what he's doing and continue to prepare and probably not get a whole lot of snaps.
Do you think this team's in the place maybe you want it to be in a good place heading into this?
You know what? I do believe so. I think that there's some depth, and I don't mean depth as in, hey, the defensive line's got some depth. I mean, I think there's some depth in who we are and what we are that's a little stronger than it has been. And I think for us, that's a really important factor. How good are we? We got to go out and play and see. But I do feel like that there's this complementary program where guys really understand what the expectations are like, not just on the football field, but in how they're doing everything and how everything ties together. And if there's anything that I feel really good about, it's that, not playing a lot of live ball and not getting, some of those situations where we haven't had a chance to do a lot of 2-minute and some of those things. There's still a lot to be done, but as far as the nature of where we are as a program and a team and, this complementary group, I don't know if we could be further along.
A lot of guys have just talked about feeling better about the culture this season. Generally in fall camp, you see a lot of times emotions boiling over, a lot of fights, skirmishes. You guys have had almost next to nothing. Is that a sign of maybe just how gelled this locker room is?
Well, I do think there's that word, that idea, that competitive maturity that we keep talking about. I think that has something to do with it. I think, there's a lot of other things. I hope that it has a lot to do with how we want to and need each other. And even when you get to those points emotionally, you got to be able to control yourself. But there's some other things we can pick at. There's some things I'm frustrated with right now to see there as we get to the end of the scrimmage and you see the white jerseys over on the side cheering and hollering and back up off of the starting offensive line right up there in the front of the thing, pushing the guys out there, whether it's the 2s or the 3s. And I look back there, I didn't see the same thing from the other sideline. And so to me, there's an opportunity for us to really address, hey, we got to understand something. That this is a part of what complementary football looks like. That doesn't always mean offense, defense, and special teams. That might mean the ones, coaching and taking, a lot of part in what's happening with the 2s and the 3s. And so there's always opportunities to grow, and I think there's some really things we got to grow from today.
Luke, do you know how long you might be out without Tucker Ashcraft?
No, I don't know for sure just yet. I think we'll continue to wait and see and tell me what the doctors say. So I'm sure we'll give you an update coming up here next week.